reclaiming the White House.
The winner of the 2024 presidential election.
Hey, look what happened.
Donald Trump officially wins the race for president.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the greatest capitalist in the history.
Donald Trump will be the 47th president of the United States.
The 2024 presidential election took the nation by storm, with Donald Trump defeating Kamala Harris to reclaim the White House. This surprising comeback has Americans from all walks of life asking the same question: what will Trump's return mean for our economy? When Trump first campaigned in 2016, he promised to shake things up with big changes to taxes, government spending, trade, and regulations. Now that he's back in office, everyone is watching to see if he'll follow through on these bold plans again. Most importantly, Americans want to know how his actions will impact their wallets. In this video, we'll dive into the 4 key economic areas Trump has vowed to tackle: taxes, tariffs, spending, and deregulation. Along the way, we'll explore how his policies might shape the future of the U.S. economy and everyday life. At the end of the video, we have 3 crucial points to share about Trump's transition into power. Taxes. Could new cuts boost your income? One of Trump's major campaign promises has always been tax cuts. In his first term, he signed the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which slashed tax rates for individuals and corporations alike. Supporters argued that these cuts helped the economy grow by giving businesses and families more money to spend and invest. This time around, Trump's tax goals are even more ambitious. He has floated the radical idea of eliminating the federal income tax altogether, though experts say that's extremely unlikely. Instead, he's considering several smaller tax cuts aimed at middle-class workers. For instance, Trump has suggested eliminating taxes on overtime pay and tips, which could benefit millions of American workers. Additionally, he's proposed raising the child tax credit to $5,000 per child to give families more financial support. And for businesses, he's talked about reinstating 100% bonus depreciation, which allows companies to deduct the full cost of equipment purchases immediately, making it easier for them to invest and expand. These tax cuts aim to put more money into Americans' pockets, hoping that when people have more money to spend, it helps stimulate the entire economy. Financial analyst explains, tax cuts generally benefit both households and businesses. Money taken away by the government doesn't get spent on productive things, so keeping it with the people can lead to more economic growth. But there's a catch. While Trump wants to cut some taxes, he also plans to raise others through tariffs, which brings us to our next topic: Trump's tariffs, boosting U.S. manufacturing or raising prices. Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, and Trump has always been a big supporter of using them, especially on products from countries like China and Mexico. His idea is that by making foreign-made items more expensive, American companies might be encouraged to bring jobs and factories back to the U.S. Many economists agree that tariffs can help protect American industries and jobs, but they also come with a downside. They make imported goods more expensive. This can lead to higher prices on everyday items, which can hurt consumers, particularly lower and middle-income families who are already struggling to keep up with the cost of living. The effect of Trump's tariffs could offset some of the benefits of his tax cuts. Any tariffs that are larger than they are now will not make up for the tax cuts on tips or child credits. Essentially, this means that Americans may end up paying more out of pocket despite the tax cuts. So, while Trump's tax cuts could lead to more spending power, increased tariffs might push up prices, making some things less affordable. It's a tricky balance, and it's unclear if this trade-off will pay off for the average American household. Spending cuts. Is it efficiency or overreach? In his previous term, Trump oversaw a steady increase in federal spending, and the budget deficit reached a historic high in 2024 at $1.8 trillion. Now, he's vowing to get spending under control. He has proposed working with high-profile figures like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to trim down government waste and make government agencies more efficient. Analysts estimate that Trump's proposed spending cuts could save as much as $2 trillion. While that sounds like good news, especially with the national debt now topping $36 trillion, cutting government spending isn't always straightforward. Programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid use a large chunk of the budget, and cutting these programs would impact millions of Americans, especially the elderly, disabled, and low-income families. If Trump can make big cuts through deregulation and efficiency, it's possible he could save $1 trillion or $2, but it's not likely to lead to a budget surplus. Even with tax cuts, we'll probably still see $1 trillion deficit every year. In other words, Trump's spending cuts may slow down the debt growth, but they're unlikely to fix the deficit completely. And if he cuts too much, he risks hurting people who depend on government programs for healthcare, retirement, and other critical services, freeing business or removing protections. One of the most radical parts of Trump's economic plan involves massive deregulation. Over the years, federal agencies have created countless rules to protect workers, consumers, and the environment. Trump believes these rules hold back businesses by making it harder and more expensive for them to operate. In Trump's view, many of these regulations are unnecessary and costly. He wants to cut through the red tape so businesses can grow, invest, and create jobs without government interference. Weeken compares the effect of deregulation to removing a tumor from a sick person, suggesting it would allow businesses to thrive and contribute more to the economy. Supporters of deregulation believe it will lead to an economic boom by unleashing the full potential of the private sector. Without burdensome rules, businesses could innovate and expand faster, leading to more jobs and a stronger economy. However, critics argue that removing regulations could lead to abuses, safety issues, and even environmental damage. For instance, without strict environmental rules, some companies might cut corners, potentially leading to pollution and health hazards for communities. This approach could lead to economic growth and progress, but there's also the risk of unintended consequences. So while deregulation might spark growth, it could also leave consumers and workers vulnerable if companies aren't held accountable. Opportunity or risk? With Trump's return, America stands at a crossroads. His economic policies are bold, but they're also risky. While his proposed tax cuts, spending reductions, tariffs, and deregulation could stimulate economic growth, they could also lead to new challenges. Will Trump's policies improve the lives of Americans? Or will they push the country into greater financial trouble? Even with tax cuts, we're still looking at deficits and a growing national debt. And the risks of deregulation and tariffs might create more problems than they solve. The truth is, no one can say for sure. If Trump's economic plans work as intended, they could create jobs, raise incomes, and slow down the debt. But if they don't, Americans could see fewer protections, higher prices, and an even larger debt problem. A crucial turning point. As the U.S. moves forward under Trump's leadership, the future of the economy hangs in the balance. His policies are a double-edged sword. On one side, Trump promises growth, fewer regulations, and lower taxes. He envisions a future where Americans keep more of their earnings, businesses grow, and the economy thrives. On the other side, there's concern that this approach could widen deficits, create higher prices, and weaken important protections for Americans. Critics worry that the proposed changes might cause financial hardships, especially for vulnerable communities, and push the national debt to new heights. The 2024 election has marked a critical point for America's economic direction. Whether Trump's vision will lead to prosperity or peril is still up in the air. Americans now find themselves on a path filled with both opportunity and uncertainty, where every policy decision will impact jobs, income, and the financial security of future generations. In the end, only time will reveal the true impact of these bold economic shifts. But one thing is certain, the road ahead will be challenging, and each decision will have lasting consequences for America's economic future. Here are 3 additional lessons from this story, along with ideas on how to apply them in our daily lives. Number 1. The power of strategic planning. Trump's economic policies emphasize strategic choices, like tax cuts, spending reductions, and deregulation, as ways to potentially grow the economy. This highlights the value of having a plan and setting priorities, especially when aiming to achieve ambitious goals. We can incorporate strategic planning into our lives by setting clear, achievable goals for ourselves. Whether it's creating a budget, planning for a career move, or saving for a big purchase, developing a strategy and sticking to it allows us to stay focused and make more meaningful progress. Having a plan also helps us use our time and resources more effectively. Number 2. The role of diverse perspectives. The reactions to Trump's policies remind us that decisions affect people differently. Economic plans can be viewed positively or negatively depending on one's perspective and circumstances. This highlights the importance of considering different viewpoints, especially when making decisions that affect others. In our lives, we can practice this lesson by actively seeking input from others before making important decisions. Whether it's listening to friends, family, colleagues, or experts, understanding various perspectives helps us make more informed choices. It also fosters empathy, allowing us to see beyond our own circumstances and better appreciate the experiences of those around us. Number 3. The need for fiscal responsibility. The story illustrates the challenge of managing a national budget, particularly when tax cuts and spending cuts are at play. The growing national debt reminds us that fiscal responsibility, keeping expenses balanced with income, is crucial, even on a personal level. We can adopt fiscal responsibility in our own finances by monitoring our spending and making sure it aligns with our income. Creating a budget, setting aside emergency savings, and avoiding unnecessary debt are all ways to stay financially healthy. Just like a country needs a sustainable economic plan, we also benefit from disciplined financial management to avoid future financial strain. What do you think? Can Trump change the course of our economy once he is in office? Do you think the economy can be better with Trump at the helm? Please leave your comment below. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you for making it this far. If you like this video, you might want to share it with a like-minded friend. Thank you, and as always, stay blessed.